Welcome or welcome back, new viewers and game bears. It is time for another unused content video in games, and today I have chosen Kirby Star Allies to look at next. So, let us begin. Alright, starting right over here. Kirby Star Allies is a lesson in keeping your friends close and your enemies closer, and your death gods of an apocalypse cult closest. Don't try this at home, kids. Ha, look at that, I got humor in here. Not only unused content, but anyways, notably the first Kirby game, say in China. Interesting. That's a fun fact. But anyways, we get into some things. This is just some things, I guess, about bugs. Probably just a few small glitches. Like the guest star Kirby and guest star Kirby. Star Allies Go. Kirby is not a selectable character, only the friends and dream friends are playable, hence the name. Alright, however, if no continued save is present, it is possible for Kirby to play as Kirby by touching the area of the screen between new game and the best time selection. As this requires the touchscreen, this must be performed on handheld or tabletop mode. Alright, that's just a small oversight, I guess. They could have fixed that in a later update. But anyways, now to the meat and potatoes of this. Unused characters. Now, I mentioned this during the playthrough, that Highness was a scrapped character, and here are his scrapped 3D models for Player 1, Player 2, Player 3, and Player 4, respectively. However, note he doesn't have any scrapped models for the different elements, like electricity or fire that you can use in the game. Alright, Highness. The model of Highness is located with the other playable characters, indicating that at some point he was meant to be a full-fledged dream friend. Sadly, this never came to fruition, although the three mage sisters became playable in Wave 3. Maybe there was originally going to be a Wave 4 with Highness being playable, but again, I guess that got scrapped. By then, Smash Ultimate was coming out around that time, so maybe that's part of the reason. That might be a little stretch, though. Anyways, Highness also has unused yellow, blue, and green recolors for multiplayer and side modes. Alright, unused moves. Revelation Beam. Or Revolution Beam. Revolution Beam from Kirby's Return to Dreamland, which I believe I remember using that in the playthrough as well, where you stand there, you hit the button over and over again, you button mash in other words, and Kirby will use the beam attack in a circle formation. This attack also got cut in Triple Deluxe, and hasn't seen the light of day since. It has two fully programmed animation scripts, and animations registered, which is funny how they didn't just reuse the animations from those games. They could have very easily put those in here, but nope, they go unused. But has no state for Beam Kirby to use. Despite lacking a script, Beam's whip algorithm class has been variable bool, in parentheses, M to revolution, which is just the code for it. Bool, the parentheses again, M can try revolution. And int, with the parentheses once again, M trigger count. All accessed by the class initialization function, but never actually used outside of Waddle-Doo's in-water state and the Beam Whip state settings. M can try revolution to false when they're supposed to. The moves share similar characteristics in Planet Robobot, where its states are nowhere to be seen, but the animation scripts are present. Alright, Sky Energy Sword, I also mentioned this during the playthrough. This attack was in Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot, but actually ends up going unused in this game. Whereas Kirby will hold his sword to the air if you just hold up on the cursor, and he'll get a little energy beam on it, so if you use the attack button, he'll shoot an energy blade. Kind of like the sword beam, but without Kirby having to be at full HP to use it. Anyways, Sword Sky Energy Sword attack from Triple Deluxe, accessible by holding up while standing, is almost fully programmed in. Almost. They could have copy-pasted it. What do you mean, almost? Anyways, much like State Summon Helper Prey, or another piece of code. Sky Energy Swords try to change state. Function instantly returns. However, unlike that state, Sky Energy Sword is actually called twice. I guess that's more a coding mistake which caused the move to be unused because of it. Couldn't fix that in an update? No? Whatever. Sword's ability state class, code that controls Sword's unique code states. Attempts to make Kirby use Sky Sword, Energy Sword, at the very end of its function for trying to use Sword's different moves. The second time the Sky Energy Sword is attempted to be accessible is during Hat Trust. Among the checks for canceling into Sword's other attacks. Because the state for requiring an element requires holding up for a certain period of time, Sky Energy Sword will work properly alongside it and will make priority. So it's not known why it was scrapped. I guess because of that little function, that could be why. It's likely the developers didn't want Kirby to have to charge Sky Energy Sword before being able to gain an element. Maybe that's why. They could have made it in a way where you could also charge Sky Energy Sword, plus get an element simultaneously, so I don't see why they did that. But at the same time, there are times where you want to use Sky Energy Sword, but you don't want to have an element, so that's another reason. But I feel like they could have had a way to put that into the control scheme. With some modifications, it is possible to use the move again. It's almost fully functional, with Kirby being able to charge the sword beam. However, Kirby's unable to fire it, and is never attempted to be spawned during the move that shoots it. The beam object itself does also exist and is fully programmed, even having a hitbox and reacting properly to collision. None of Kirby's moves actually clear the charge, so the charge is permanently once he's gained it. An overhead slash can be restored to make it fire beams, but elements won't work on it. Alright, that's a little sad. Anyways, here's another unused boss fight in the game, that being the unused Marx boss fight, very similar to his boss fight in Kirby Superstar and Superstar Ultra. Alright, while Marx was added as a Dream Friend in version 2.0.0, he also was added as a boss during the credits of the Heroes of Another Dimension when it was added in version 4.0.0, even though it's unseen. He actually has data for a boss health bar and designated music track that both go unused since it was programmed as a bonus fight during the credits. Most likely a remix of his boss fight in Kirby Superstar. Much like Meta Knight and King Dedede, with a few tweaks, however, you can load Marx as a regular boss, and the unused attributes can be seen. The music except for fight is Versus Marx / Star Allies Dream version, which is used in the Morpho Knights battle and Guest Star Heroes ? And the ultimate choice when playing as Marx. Since no end result was programmed after you defeat him, the player will be stuck forcing them to quit the game. Marx can be loaded into any room due to not having an arena data attached. So, and here's what it looks like. It's 2 minutes long, so I think I'm going to skip some parts and this damn thing shows up on my screen. Sorry about that. I'm going to make this full sprint for you guys as well. Yep, it just has his basic moveset from Superstar. There's his arrow attack. Also, goddamn, this guy has 200 lives. Alright, that would give you this ability, just like in Superstar and Superstar Ultra. Oh, he firing his laser. The black hole. It's an Kirby boss without a black hole attack. Let's skip a few parts. We don't need to see every move over and over again. And down goes Marx. And like the text states, there's now a result because it wasn't coded to have a result thanks to this boss fight going unused. But anyways, Kirby Superstar style helper summon. Just since, I did mention this during the playthrough, the helper's gimmick that this game is based on the helper spawning from Kirby Superstar and Superstar Ultra. Again, Superstar Ultra being my second favorite Kirby game after Return to Dreamland. Which I've always wanted this back when Return to Dreamland first came out. And I'm glad that Star Allies kind of delivered. More reasons why Star Allies is a very good game, people. But anyways, there exists an unused and somewhat unfinished set of states in the game named State Summon Helper Prey and State Summon Helper. The first of these two is supposed to dim the screen, and the second create a new helper using Kirby's current copy ability, applying Kirby's current elements to the helper as well. However, how it worked in Superstar and Superstar Ultra, if you press the X button on the DS or 3DS if you're playing it on there, he will use his ability to create the helper, but Kirby also loses his ability in the process. That doesn't happen in the final game, which I have a feeling was initially going to happen here. These functions make spawn a helper in a similar way to Kirby Superstar and Superstar Ultra, obviously where the gimmick is based on. Summoning this triggered with the X button, though the state lacks check for being in the ultimate choice. Kirby's ability won't be clear due to the code of being manually disabled by a jump instruction. That makes sense, because in the ultimate choice, you get to choose your allies and whatnot, and being able to make allies on the fly would make that kind of redundant. And in the final game, in order to make partners, you just gotta throw friend hearts at enemies. That's how you do that, which, in a way, I kind of prefer that. It's a little different, and kind of goes with the idea of the power of friendship that this game kind of pushes your way, But anyways, not only is State Summon Helper Praise, or Prees, whatever, try to change state function never called, it also instantly returns, despite the rest of the functions being code. Presumably, the developers disabled the copyability clearing code to initially test the state, but then the mechanic was scrapped and replaced by the friend heart mechanic. Okay, I see. Probably as an in-story reason for countering the Jamba heart, most likely why. They had to change that for story reasons. Where they have been removed all references to the state and forced any potential calls of it to never work. Alright, and here's what it would look like. Let's make this full screen. Yeah, it works similarly to how it does in Superstar and Superstar Ultra, but again, Kirby doesn't lose his ability like he does in that game. In some ways, I kind of prefer this. So this was most likely made before the friend heart mechanic was a thing. And notice how Kirby can also delete his allies whenever he wants, just like in Superstar and Superstar Ultra. That's something you can't do in the final game. Because when Kirby presses the X button again when he has no ability, they'll die on the spot as you just saw there. Hell, in Superstar and Superstar Ultra was a really brutal animation. Don't worry, I'll bring that up when I eventually play those games on this channel. And he can even discard his ability and throw a friend heart at it. Actually, yeah, the friend heart mechanic was actually there. So it was already made, as you can see here, so maybe the reason why they removed this, again, just for redundancy purposes. This time you have to actually hold the button to unfriend. And again, something not possible in the final game. Alright, that's the end of that. Alright, now, debug the sandbag enemy. The game hosts an unused debug object to spawn a dummy enemy. This unused enemy is initialized with 999 HP and is set to never be able to be killed. Just give it infinite HP then. Why'd you give it an HP value if it can't be killed? It has 3 different variations. Type Zako uses the model of a Waddle Dee. Type Ground Boss uses a Waddle Dee resized by 2 times, in other words, it's twice as big. Classified as a mid-boss. And Type Air Boss uses the model of a Brontobert resized by 2, in other words, twice as big, times, and is also classified as a mid-boss. When initialized, it creates a separate object with the specified variation type, and then acts as a handler for the rest of the object's functions, keeping track of a lot of interesting variables. The object logs the amount of time the sandbag is in his stun and how much damage is taken in that time, as well as logging the most amount of damage that's been dealt. The object creates the string 3 greater than or equal to signs, or just greater than. All these Japanese symbols I'm not going to say, and less than equal to signs. And more Japanese symbols, I think we should just skip all that. You guys get the gist. While the sandbag is invincible in hit stun and idling, respectively, the first string replaces the %2.2f with the M invincible frame timer's remaining frames divided by 60. The second string replaces the parentheses.2f with the damage monitor timer M measure time divided by 60. It's most likely, I guess it's a way to kind of calculate damage or something. That's most likely what that's about. And most likely outputted them to the console log during development, but this code was removed from the final game, thus doing nothing with them. Alright, if the sandbag is left idle for 300 frames, it fully healed. So that's around 5 seconds. Actually, Kirby Star Allies runs at 30 frames per second, so that would take 10 seconds to happen. If it was by 60 frames per second, it would be 5 seconds. Alright, it's fully healed, accompanied by the healing sound and particle effect. If a sandbag is killed, its parent object responds to it immediately. Its object won't create a sandbag enemy in the vanilla game due to never entering its main state. Mint edits are needed to be able to create the object properly. That's most likely the code for allowing it to heal if you wait long enough, like I mentioned earlier. Alright, and here's what it would look like. This training dummy is most likely very similar to the one you see in the War Star Cutter and Dreamland Deluxe, and the dummy you see in one of the ability area of Deluxe and Planet Robot. So that's most likely like a test version or unused version of this, since nobody just did like those previous games did. If you think about Star Allies as a bit of a spiritual successor to Return to Dreamland Triple X, originally it was going to be called, this game was even going to be called Return to Dreamland 4, just like Triple X was going to be Return to Dreamland 2. Planet Robot was going to be Return to Dreamland 3, but that didn't happen. I mean, I guess one, they're kind of I guess, but 2, they would also overlap with Kirby's Dreamland 1, 2, and 3. 2 of those games being on the Game Boy, and the third one being on the Switch. Yeah. And these are mostly just test dummies for, like, calculating damage as well, depending on which ability you're using. That's most likely why they're just using test dummies. Alright, let's skip some of this. We don't want the entire video. I'm gonna rewind a little bit here, just in case there's anything important to notice. Kirby tried to suck him up, and it didn't exactly work. Kirby gets free here, but then the enemy immediately responds. Most likely the dummy instantly healing after the supposed kill. Which kind of happens with the training dummy in Return to Dreamland Triple Deluxe and Planet Robot, though in a different way. As you see, the Waddle D kind of just blips into existence again. So you can tell it wasn't fully finished. Notice how the enemies also have finished animations as well. Most likely copy and pasted from the aforementioned Kirby games that I mentioned before. Alright, dude, stop doing that with Kirby, that's weird. Alright, anyways, unused debug scripts, I'm not going to read all of these, so let's underscore all of that. These are completely empty, they just go unused, so I'm going to give you guys a second if you guys want to take a look at this and just read the code. Alright, now unused music, just like in the Super Paper Mario video, I'm not going to play these just in fear of getting copyright claimed, so I'm not going to play them here. But anyways, we'll just say what they are. Quite a few tunes found in this game's files end up going unused in some capacity. Some of them were from the other Kirby games, where some are also alternate versions of tracks that first appeared in Star Allies. So most like just a bunch of remixes. And because this game does feature a lot of prominent characters from previous Kirby games, like Magolor, for example, so a lot of songs used for especially those characters are remixes in this game. Alright, unused variations of He's Arrived, Daroach's Dream Friend Jingle, which is the mouse guy from Squeak Squad on the DS. This version uses the squeaks sound at the end, and that end is used in Daroach's reveal video, but not in the final product. So for some reason, I guess they took that little jingle out. There was no real reason to do that, honestly, but whatever. Unused variations of the Noble Hallman / Star Allies arranged, Susie from Planet Robobot, Susie's Secret Room theme. The unused version has a different intro and slightly different mixing. And unused variations of Supreme Ruler Coronation Overworld, which is Magolor's theme from Return to Dreamland, Magolor's Morpho Knight boss theme. The unused variation has slightly different instruments and mixing, most apparent with the percussion at 1.11. The unused version is timestamped as 6 September 2018, which was when Wave 3 of the DLC came out. Free DLC, by the way, it wasn't paid, which was around 2 months before the release date of Wave 3. Yeah, about 2 months, which that came out in November, again, just a week or so before Super Smash Bros. Ultimate came out. Which, that was the update where Magolor was added, so... So perhaps maybe Magolor was originally going to be released in Wave 2, but that didn't happen. That could explain the date over here. Actually, no. Wave 2 came out in July of 2018, not September, whatever. I think that's when this was first made. That's my guess there. Alright, unused music from other games. This one's Spring Breeze. Based on its usage in Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot, I can't play that here. And some staff credits from Triple Deluxe. We got Interdimensional Traveler from DDD's Drum Dash Deluxe. A side game on the 3DS that you can no longer buy at the time of making this video. Stadium Drag Race from Kirby's Air Ride, which is actually one of my favorite songs from that game. This file name is the same as in Kirby's Planet Robot, because in that game that is used for the mid-boss theme in the arena. / the true, actually just the arena, not the true arena. But we'll get to that when I eventually play this game on the channel. Our goal, FNAF, Five Nights at Freddy's. Actually, excuse me, not Five Nights at Freddy's, I got that wrong, but just pretend that says FNAF instead of FANF, just for the sake of the joke. From Kirby's Planet Robobot, Kirby Fighter Deluxe song, Helper's Rest, which I guess is just a resting zone for the ultimate choice, as it says here, specifically the EX version. It could have been used as one of the rest zones for that, but got unused. I mean, there's plenty of themes being used for that already in the final game, so it makes sense. Versus Mega Masher from Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards, the game where Adeline and Ribbon originate. Remix of Heading for Zero 2, or the Dark Star theme. Metal Invasion the mid-boss fight from Planet Robobot, one of my favorite mid-boss themes in the Kirby franchise. Dark Tyrann's battle from Team Kirby Clash on the 3DS, and I believe that's on Switch as well. No, that is on Switch. And actually, no. Star Allies came before Team Kirby Clash Deluxe on the Switch. I think that's the 3DS version of that game then. Alright, the minigame theme from Kirby's Dream Land 3. And it's the same one used in Planet Robobot. City Trial, also from Kirby's Air Ride. Shit, now I want to play some Kirby's Air Ride. Maybe I will after this video. Its file name is the same as in Kirby's Planet Robobot. Candy Mountain from Kirby Superstar is the file name, is the same as Kirby's Planet Robot used in that game. There was also an unused duplicate of Revenge of the Enemy from Triple Deluxe, another really awesome song from that game, which uses the same file name as that game, BGM background music, _LP, _Kazan1. The used variable was renamed is _masked. Most likely also used for Max DDD, which makes me think Max DDD was originally going to show up in this game, but that didn't happen. Where he does show up in both Superstar Ultra and Triple Deluxe, in a way, in Triple Deluxe case. Alright, internal project name. The internal project name is Eclair. Project Eclair, I like that name. Though Kirby would have eaten it in a split second, but whatever. According to strings in the game's code, Eclair is a type of dessert. No shit, dude, we know what it is. Much like Kirby's Triple Deluxe's internal project name being a paroof. I think it's supposed to be parfait, but they spelt it wrong. Whatever. Revised versions. I'm not going to go over this. These are all later updates that came after the game came out. One of which actually came before the game came out, because Star Allies came out in the US, specifically where I'm from, on March 16th, 2018, when this update seemed to have happened on the 8th. 8 days before the game actually came out. Huh, funny, just like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's first update. 1.1.0 was released on that time. I don't think I need to read all this, just like before. I'll let you guys sit here for a second and read this if you want to. Go ahead. Just pause it if you need. Alright, moving on. And these are some more sound effects that, again, I cannot play because I don't want to get copyright striked. I tweet the star, Conquering Traveler's fourth movement, Hope of Birth. Last spot, Boas 4 was patched in version 2.0.0. The new version is slightly different chords. These are just slightly changed songs. I don't think I'm going to go over the rest of these either. These are just more updates. Here, I'll sit here for a second so you guys can read this if you want. Just pause it. Alright, and as I mentioned before, July 27th, 2018 was the real release date for Wave 2 that added in DeRoach, Edelin Ribbon, and Dark Meta Knight. Yeah, if y'all saw the Star Allies playthrough, you know how much I love playing Dark Meta Knight. I'm edgy like that, what can I say? And here's version 4.0.0, which was released November 30th, 2018. Again, just a week before Smash Ultimate came out back then. And at the time of me recording this, that's almost 6 years old now. Just about, yeah. I'm recording this just a couple of days before the 30th of November. Alright, you guys have read that, and now just some regional differences, something small. Tutorial completion. So, notice the difference between these two images here. You see this is the Japanese version. Notice how there's a red circle over here. Now let's go back for a second. Now if we look at the international versions, you have a green check here instead. The reason being because in Japan, red circles or green X's, red circles means correct in Japan, while green X's means it's wrong. Whereas for us, for us in the international regions, a green check or green is considered right, while a red X is considered wrong. So that's the only reason why that's there. You see this a lot in Kirby games, actually. Like Kirby's Dream Land 2 and Dream Land 3 also has this distinction. And same with Return to Dreamland. But that's another discussion for another day I can bring up in a future vid. Alright, in the Japanese version of the game, during the tutorials, a red circle will appear whenever an action is properly completed. In the international versions, a green check will appear instead. This is likely because tests in Japanese schools have circles representing circle answers, while checks represent wrong answers. Yeah, like I mentioned before, or I guess in that case, checks represent wrong answers for the Japanese. Well, for us, it means it's correct, so that's why that was changed. Not the X thing I was talking about earlier, but that's a discussion for a later game I plan on playing on the channel. Whereas it is the opposite in international schools. This change is also in Return to Dreamland, like I mentioned, Kirby's Dream Collection Special Edition, Kirby's Triple Deluxe, Planet Robot, and Kirby's Battle Royale, that game specifically on the 3DS. Here are a bunch of different boss names. I'm not going to read all of these, so once again, I'll probably just say some more noticeable ones, like, hey, Mr. Flosty. Y'all, if you've seen my playthrough, you know why I call him Mr. Flosty. So that's just a discussion for another day. I don't want to have to keep repeating myself with that. But in short, I call him Mr. Frosty because there's a typo in Kirby's Amazing Mirror where Mr. Frosty is called Mr. Frosty, so that's where the running joke comes from. And for some reason in German his name is Dr. Eisburn. I would have never guessed that Fat Walrus was a doctor, but okay. Alright, Wispy Woods. Just Wispy Woods pretty much in all versions. In the traditional Japanese version, he's known as Wind Whisper Woods. Same in the simplified Japanese version, Chinese version. But yeah, let me just say here, if y'all want to read it, go ahead. Pause if you need to. Alright, that's the end of that. And finally, Void Terminator, Destroyer of Worlds. Alright, there is a lot more that is related to abandoned references to Void Terminator being a god of destruction, because he is known as the Destroyer of Worlds in-game, which is pretty cool. And it's even confirmed that Void Terminator is a multiverse level threat, actually, in the Kirby world. But anyways, alright, most mentions of Void Terminator in the Japanese, Chinese, and Korean versions refer to him as a god of destruction, which is actually a much cooler title than just Destroyer of Worlds. As cool as that title is, I prefer God of Destruction. Almost like this is Dragon Ball Super. With Beerus, anyways, slightly off topic. Whereas in the other versions, he is referred to as a Destroyer of Worlds. This also applies for the true Destroyer of Worlds variant in Soul Melter EX, which is even stronger than that one. On a similar note, before fighting Highness, he goes off on a ramble before shouting at Kirby to say, "Please disappear forever," in the English version. In the Japanese, Chinese, and Korean version, he shouts at Kirby to say, "Please die for our god." As you know, this had to be censored in the international versions of Star Allies, but yeah, Highness and the other mages, they're actually a part of a cult trying to resurrect Void Terminator, which is why they say things like "die for our god," as you can see here, and why he sacrifices himself and the mages for Void Terminator, but I already went over that throughout the playthrough. Anyways, well, that'll be it for this version of Unused Content in Games. If y'all enjoyed this and you want to see more, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And our question today, what is some unused content in Kirby Star Allies that you would have loved to see in the final game? For me personally, I know this is slightly cliched, but I would have liked for the Marks boss fight to be in the game. That would have been really nice. Sure, it would have just been the same as his moveset in Superstar and Superstar Ultra, but it's a nice reference. Marks is an iconic villain in the Kirby franchise, so it's fine in my opinion. Alright, so thank you all for watching, and have a berrific day. Hope you all learned something.